yeah, that because I was thinking, why did Ria ask me to watch this movie?
Well, I didn't. I told you that I watched it, and then it was like, but yeah, I think that's the thing. I started watching it, and then I was waiting for the because you think, people make documentaries for a reason, right? So I was waiting for that reason. Like, what is the big, So I thought it was this whole MySpace, some. I thought that it was about like a normal person who had gone and done the whole detective, thing through MySpace, and like it was an awesome thing. And I was like, no, man, she's crazy. Like, it's about the mom who's crazy.
Okay, I think I was crazy watching the documentary in the first place, but no, so to get what everyone's here and listening to us talk, we're talking about the next Netflix show, a documentary on Netflix called "Why Did You Kill Me?" And I think it's in the top 10. Is that's
That's
where
where
you
I
came
watched it.
across it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That
That's where
that's
I
how you
saw
came
it.
across it, eh?
Yeah,
That's how you came across it, eh, Real?
yeah. That is
So
honestly why. That is the only reason why. And no, because I like true crime docos too. Like, I love that, and I see like I watch stuff on Facebook and that, and yeah, I'm sure it had come up on my top 10. That's usually how I pick what to watch. Yeah, and then it unfortunately was not in my top 10. So
no, but it was good. It was probably a good premise though, eh? Like it's a story about a crime that happened in America 2006, and innocent bystander got killed. And it was a story about how the family got together and used social media to track down the killers. Oh,
wow, somewhat. Yeah,
yeah. So no, that is interesting. If that is an interesting story in itself,
yeah.
but but yeah, the problem for me was I didn't really care about the people involved in the story. I think I think the gang that was the gang that was there that had to do with the had a big part in the murder was like I didn't care.
5150, I
Yeah,
think.
5150 gang. I didn't really care for them, and I feel sorry for the girl that got killed.
Yeah,
It's sad, but then it revealed the background of her family,
yeah.
and then it was like, man, these white trash.
Oh wow,
I
oh
didn't really,
wow.
I didn't really care. I didn't really care for that family, like. But
Well,
no, but I think the interesting part was what the whole thing was about. So it was about the use of social media
yeah.
to track down the murderer, and that was a pretty interesting thing. Um, is that what you got out of it as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought that that's what it was in the first place, and it's always interesting to me, as a woman, because it's like, they always say that women are like the number one FBI's when it comes to like, social media, using social media to find stuff out, and that's somewhat true. So I thought, okay, well, maybe this is a bit like that, let's see how these girls get their use their investigative skills to actually solve a murder. But it was really twisted, and I didn't like how. Well, first I didn't like how it started. Given that it was a 14, the niece Jamie. So the lady who was killed was Crystal. She was 24. I believe her it was her niece Jamie, who was the one that decided at the age of 14, 15 that she was going to start this MySpace account to try and lure in the gang members of 5150 to try and find out who was the one that shot her auntie or cousin or whatever she was, with the backing of Belinda, who is Crystal's mum, and a freaking I got no words for Belinda, but she was yeah. Anyway, so I think what got me is how young Jamie was when she started this, and they did say that. Well, actually, Jamie said herself that, you know, all the MySpace was all the rage back then, and those young ones, that generation, knew how to use it. And so I thought, oh yeah, that's pretty smart. You just go in and do that. But then it got really twisted when they started. She had gone and got the it was catfishing, wasn't it? Like that's really what it was. It was catfishing on a major scale. Take a photo of somebody else, put it up there to try and attract all the 5150 gang members, and it worked. Um, and then but and then created another account pretending to be Angel, who was in fact the murdered cousin, and then pretending to be her, doing the same thing, luring in the 5150, and in particular the main person that they were after, which was the driver of the car. And like, I thought it was messed up, because in the end, the young girl said it was too much, pretending to be her dead cousin. Like that's mental. Like that's catfish to a whole new level. Like so yeah, I didn't like that part of it, because you could see that it really messed Jamie up. And then the mum took over the Belinda took over the MySpace account. She's got issues, man. I was like, oh.
That was pretty cringy, when she started being the character on the MySpace.
Yeah.
But what was more fucked up was where they used the same picture, her picture, Crystal's photo,
Yeah, the actual picture.
on the guys that were there. But obviously they didn't recognize her because they didn't know who it was who they killed. They
No.
thought it was a rival gang
Yeah, that's right.
that shot at them earlier on that day.
Yeah.
So those guys were out on the prowl, and they
Yes.
came. But what I didn't get was, how did they come across that car? Did they think that was? How did they know? How did they think that was the guys that shot at them earlier in the day?
So I think from what I got is that the guy who actually did the shooting in the end.
Yeah,
It wasn't
Julio.
even, yeah,
Julio.
Julio. It wasn't even him. It wasn't even him that got shot at earlier in the day. It was one of their gang members.
Ah, yeah.
That had one of their gang members had their daughter in the car or something, and they had been shot at by who they thought was another rival gang. So Mr. Tough Guy Julio or whatever said, "Oh, boys, let's go and look for this guy." So that's all they did. 7 of them jump in this Ford Expedition, start roaming the streets. Now, this other guy, Robbie, just happened to be in his car talking to his mate. And that's what had happened when these guys were cruising. They thought, oh, this guy's outside in a car late at night talking to somebody. I wonder if it's this guy. And then they turned around and faced them. And then Robbie, who is Crystal's brother, or like the son of Belinda, he freaked out because obviously now there's this car, and there's tension in the streets anyway. And he took off. Well, because he took off, these guys chased him. And then it was a whole thing. And that's kind of where that happened. But then they came upon the car that Crystal was in. My first question was, what's everyone else doing out at night? Like, everyone's like, the mum said she was in another car, right? In front of the other car where Crystal was. So apparently they were all in cars and they were just driving, I don't know where they were going, all high on meth at the time. So where was everyone going? Like, at that time of the night? And then that's when the car stopped. Julio got out and shot into the car that Crystal happened to be in, and she got shot.
Yeah. I think to be fair I think the time was 8:40 p.m.
Oh yeah.
So it wasn't too late.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just the randomness of it all. But as you said, I didn't know they were high on meth. But if you're high on meth, pumped up to find whoever shot at you earlier in the day, and you got all your boys in your car,
Yes.
cruising around, and you're like hyped up, you're probably gonna explode.
Well, actually, Belinda was high on meth. The mother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she said she got high, and she had said, at the end of the doco, she says something about that she was high on meth, and then she said everyone was, including the guys in the car. So I actually don't know if that's true, but you can imagine the adrenaline and, oh yeah, we're gonna, get revenge for our boys, and it seemed like it was just something that everyone did back then. So
yeah, I think that was the part too where, when she sort of revealed her family background, how they're sort of like her sons were in and out of jail and stuff like that, And she was on meth and drugs and all that stuff. And that's when my feelings for that family sort of went downhill, Like, okay, it's tragedy, you lost your daughter, but I don't really care about you guys,
Well,
but yeah, so I think that was the thing that was the one thing that killed it for me.
Yeah.
But when I think about this documentary, there's two things that caught my attention, the most, and that was one, Riverside, California. That's where this is based, and that's where my favorite NBA player of all time is from, Reggie Miller. He's from Riversdale, California, and
Okay, thanks for that.
and the whole and the whole social media thing about it, because it was back in 2006, and I think social media was in its infant stage,
Yeah.
or it was just ramping up. I don't think Facebook was at its where it is now. I think it was MySpace that started all the social media stuff.
Well, was Bebo before MySpace or
I
after?
think I think Bebo was popular here in New Zealand,
Right.
but it was off the back of MySpace, which
Okay.
was really popular in the United States. Do you remember that time?
Oh,
Back in the
it's
early
before
social
my
media
time.
days?
It was before my time. Of course, I remember that. I think I had a Bebo account.
Yeah. So, because I remember trying to start up a MySpace account, because I only recognized MySpace from the Americans.
Yeah.
But I remember trying to open it up and just being confused and just overwhelmed with what you can do on MySpace, with what decorations you can do, the graffiti. I was like, oh fuck, this is too hard. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Bebo was much easier. I think Bebo was the easy version of MySpace, and that's something why Bebo took off here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Because at that time, we're always going out, always posting our photos and that. I can't even remember exactly what I used Bebo for, but it was only just for parties and that.
Yeah.
But how about you? Do you remember those days?
Well, I think I might have already had my first son by then when we had Bebo. Because I think I remember a photo of him up on the thing. Actually, I think one time I googled my name, and that picture came up and linked back to my Bebo account back in the day, and I was like, man, that this internet's old school. So yeah, I think that's what I don't think I did parties and stuff back then. I think I already had my son. So
Yeah, I think that was the main thing that I used it for.
yeah.
Just showing off your good times every weekend. But
We still do it now, just on a different platform.
the whole thing about in the documentary, like finding the killer, using social media to find the killer.
Yeah.
Because when I think about it, we're talking about MySpace, we're talking about pre-Facebook, we're talking about early social media.
Yeah.
And this cousin of hers, I think it was a cousin. What's her name?
Jamie.
Jamie.
The young one.
Yeah, she jumped on MySpace to do some investigations, which I probably think was unheard of at the time.
Yeah, and I think that stood out for me too as being weird, because I would have thought that the cops, when they did find out about it, which was a bit later on, would have put a stop to it at that point. But the cop, what's his name, Rick or something, the main investigator, he was like, oh, it was a good way to do it. And I'm like, bro, that's not their job. Like, that's your job. Like, they shouldn't have allowed them to carry on with it. But he said something like, he said something like, oh, it's a good way to do it. And then let her keep doing it. The only time it was taken off her was when when there was a big surge in the Explorers and the Expeditions, the cars being blown up.
That's right.
Because the mother had now taken over the MySpace account and incited a bunch of violence between rival gangs. And that's when the cop goes, oh, actually, you know what? It's probably not a good idea that you carry on with the social media business,
Yeah.
and shuts it down. It's like, it should have been taken off her a lot earlier, I think. But maybe they didn't know the power of social media at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and that was the thing I was interested about, because it was earlier on. Even though the police didn't know the power of social media,
Yeah.
I mean, they thought, okay, you're gonna do all this stuff. Doesn't really matter until all those SUVs starting to get shot up around the place, and then decided to let's shut the social media thing down. But I think it talks to because if you think about, because I don't know, because remember when the US government started to spy on their citizens using social media? It's
No.
that the whole thing that Edward Snowden, he um he was like a whistleblower, and
Yeah.
he exposed all that because he used to work for the CIA. So he exposed the big thing where the because of after 9/11,
Mm.
there was a whole paranoia. So they found the CIA got this technology that could spy on everyday people
Yeah.
without them knowing, like tapping into people's laptops and seeing what the laptop is seeing.
Oh, and is it like using like trigger words as well? Like they're alerted when people are using certain trigger words
Yeah,
on
yeah,
social media and that.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So that sort of technology is more advanced at that time.
Mm.
But it just reminded me of what this girl was doing with
Yeah.
using MySpace to track down. It's a similar sort of. She's using the technology in a similar sort of way.
Yeah.
You know, without people really understanding it. Because after all, it was early, and we didn't really understand the power of social media at that time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the police didn't understand either, and that's why they let it go in the first
Yeah. Yeah.
instance.
Mm.
And then when shit was going down, they said, "Oh, no, no, we'll take that away from you," you know.
Yeah.
So, I think out of everything that I felt about this documentary, I think that was the main sort of thing that got my attention,
Yeah.
and it made me remember what it was like in the early social media days,
Yeah.
pre Facebook, because I remember I remember the time when I first heard of Facebook, and I thought that it was like it was real bland. It was just a blue and white
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it was all about Bieber, because everyone was on Bieber. And I didn't really think that Facebook would explode to what it is now,
Yeah.
but
Mm.
it eventually did. But that was the time I sort of remembered experience with social media in the early days.
Mm.
So, were you thinking about that too, or did you? How did you feel about the? Because she was sort of what Jamie did. She was sort of ahead of her time
Yeah.
doing all that investigation stuff.
Yeah.
Because when we hear about things like people getting fired from their jobs through Facebook, and like, wow, you can do that now. Like, you know, employees can look on Facebook and search your history and
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
try to get a sense of what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that until later on.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
you know,
think she just used it as a tool that like she said something that I just did what Crystal taught me to do. Which was to lure in, the guys will make the guys wonder or whatever it was. So I kind of think she just did on the internet what she was taught to do as a chick. And so it wasn't that big of a jump for me. Like it didn't, the spread of it was, and what Belinda managed to do with it after, like that whole thing about luring people into one area for a party so she can then shoot them up, that was mental. So I think it showed how, yeah, I guess how advanced it could be, and that whole thing about blowing up, causing that whole gang rival stuff, just shows the power of the internet and how quickly things can escalate once it's on the net and stuff, and you can do so much more damage online than you can do in person driving around in one car. And that to me was scary, but I don't think they knew that at the time. They were just desperate, and yeah, yeah, they wouldn't have known. Now we'd know. Now that's why there's so much filtering on social media, is because we know that if we put something on the internet, it's going to cause such a huge outrage, and can cause so much violence and stuff. That's why there are so many restrictions. Back then, they wouldn't have had a clue.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So I thought about all those things. Like I thought about, you know, you're exactly right. Like she caused a gang war almost. Oh, she probably
Oh, she did.
she did, eh?
Yeah,
And people would have actually died if they came to that secret party she tried to
yeah,
organize.
yeah,
Remember that secret
yeah,
party, and
yeah,
she was gonna go out and shoot those guys. But yeah, just man, it was. I think that in the South, you're right. That in the South was scary. Was the
yeah.
most scary part of the whole story.
Mm.
Not what actually happened, but how social media was used, how they used social media, and how influenced all this, how it manipulated
Yeah.
those gang members
Yeah.
to carry out some bad stuff that was probably was
Well,
like
it's all
was a normal way,
but
and
probably
like
not, but not true as well. Like,
yeah, yeah,
where
yeah,
is
not
the
true.
research?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly, exactly.
oh,
Yeah,
I heard that these guys said this about you. Oh yeah, like, and it's like, hang on, go find out if he actually said that. Nothing like that, and that's so they're arguing over something that didn't happen. It's like so stupid.
yeah, yeah. So stupid. It is so stupid, but and dangerous at the same time,
Yeah,
man. So man, okay, I got a bit of understanding talking to you about this movie now, and like of the whole thing, and it is a good documentary. I mean, if you cut through all the what's on the surface
well,
and get down to the nitty gritty, which I think
yeah,
was what we're talking about, is I think why we're talking about this documentary and how it relates to our lives, particularly
yeah,
in the social media space, and what's happening now. I think people have more understanding now what social media can do,
yeah.
and there's a whole lot of documentaries on Netflix about it. There's that one, I don't know if you've seen that documentary about the cats. Don't mess with cats,
No,
and that's a similar sort of story,
yeah,
where a, a serial killer. It was this guy. He was about to be a serial killer. He murdered a cat on. He videoed him. He videoed himself murdering a cat. He killed a cat,
right,
but it didn't show his face. But
yeah,
he put it out there online. And what they did, all these cat lovers around the world saw this video,
yeah,
and they all banded together and did the same thing. Used social media to track down this guy.
right.
Yeah, and he ended up to be a real serial killer.
Oh god,
And they got him at the end. So
yeah,
you should check that one out because it's a similar sort of thing. Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's called "Don't Fuck with Cats."
Oh well,
Yeah, don't fuck with cats.
yeah, because that's what I need, more procrastination. Yeah, I think actually one of the other things that really struck me with this documentary was like the role of the mum. Uh, Very early on, I kind of got annoyed with her because it was the whole thing around. She said something in the beginning about when the cops asked her stuff, she was like, nah, like, wasn't forthcoming with the information, because they didn't trust cops and stuff. So and she lied to them about, certain things to protect her own kids in the whole situation. So it's either you want to find your daughter's killer and be upfront about everything, or you don't. So it's like she wasn't forthcoming and then got mad at the cops for not doing their job, but yet she was also hindering it. You know what I mean? Um, and then the whole thing around, we find out that actually she did drugs and stuff. She did meth, um, and it kind of she said something about how her daughter Crystal, who got killed, had always wanted her to give up drugs, and that her sons had also been through jail and all of that kind of stuff. She used to sell drugs herself, and she was real blasé about it. Do you remember that part where she was kind of like, "Oh yeah, I did. I really put it out there. I sold it to heaps of people." I was like, "What a guy!" Like, Um, and then she said something like, "Oh yeah, I did a lot of damage out there." Like real blasé about it. Anyway, when you get to the end, they talk about Julio and his mum, and how so Julio's the shooter, and how what his family life was like. And they said too that his mum was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and that he actually became the person that looked after his siblings, at a very young age. So he was about 14, 15 when he left the house. So you kind of look at this and you go, man, the mums played such a big role in all of these kids' lives, and how they ended up the way they have. And yet, what annoyed me is that Belinda didn't take responsibility for it. It was everyone else's fault. Um, and that part about her going after the driver, Joker, the one on MySpace, I still don't get that. Why she was so. I know he drove the car, but the actual shooter was Julio, who was already arrested at this point. But she was still after the driver. Do you get that? Like, do you like? She still had this. She This is the one she had a personal vendetta against. This is the one that she was messaging on Facebook, also on MySpace, pretending to be Angel, and having this kind of fake relationship with him. But she was really against him and still wanted him to come to justice after the actual shooter was caught. But I don't understand that. Do you get that?
I think because the other guys they testified, the other guys that were in the car, so they got let off. But I think the driver, Joker, he went missing.
Yeah, but Joker was the first one that got questioned and was the first one to give the police the names of the Lemus, the twins, not the twins, the brothers, who were the second lot to testify. So actually, Joker was the first one to actually start the first one to snitch on the gang, or the other people, and actually started was the one who made it possible for the others to get arrested and questioned. Yes, he took off afterwards, but I don't know whether he deserved 22 years. That's what he got in the end, was 22 years in jail.
No,
So
yeah, no, that's a good point because if you think about the brothers that testified and got let off,
yeah,
maybe that 22 years has got to do with him running away as well. Um,
it was voluntary manslaughter in the end. I don't know whether it was voluntary because he drove the car knowing that there was going to be, um, you know, that they were going out cruising to kill somebody.
mm,
Um, But then I would expect everyone else in the car who jumped in the car to do it
mm,
as well, to get some kind of thing as well.
yeah, he was also the first contact on the MySpace
Yeah,
for the family.
yeah,
So they were leading him on. I think that fueled most of it as well.
yeah,
Like here's this guy that drove the car that killed my daughter,
yeah.
and we're just flirting with him, flirting with him all the time, and
I
you
actually
know,
felt sorry for him like at the end. I was like, because he's like this hard out gang member, but then he's like, oh no, I got dreams, I want to be a chef and I'm doing my GED and stuff. And I was like, man, the guy's trying to change, like cut him some slack, man. And when they actually caught up with him, he was married with 4 kids. This is like 15 years after the murder, and he's now married with 4 kids, and he's like a chili farmer or something. Um, so he had changed his life, for as far as I could see. But I don't know, man. I just thought, man, that's sad. I did feel sorry for him at some point, going, you try and change, but
yeah, I'm glad you brought up the drug dealing because what's the name of the mum?
Belinda.
Belinda. Did they say that she actually sold drugs to Julio's mum?
No, she said herself, she admitted that she sold drugs. So
Oh
she
yeah,
goes,
yeah,
I wrote this down. She goes, oh, I sold drugs as well. I sold a lot. I did a lot of damage out there. I
yeah.
put a lot of
Oh yeah,
drugs on the
yeah,
street.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty sad. Eh?
Well, what they were saying about Belinda and the families didn't know each other, but the problem was the same with the mothers. So Belinda, who's a mother, was doing crystal meth and was addicted to it, and Julio, who was the murderer in the end, his mother was addicted to drugs and alcohol. So both these mothers weren't looking after their children in the way that a mother should look after their children, um, which stuffed up the kids. And then yeah, and so now the kids are almost like it's like this generational cycle of the what drugs has done to the family. And um, from what I understand, Crystal, who got killed, she didn't want a part of it. She didn't do well, she didn't do drugs or something like that. And so she was, but the brothers had been in a lot of trouble because of drugs. Same as the killer's family as well. His mum was part of the drug life. He was 14, 15, and ended up having to look after his siblings because his mother couldn't. So that's a lot of pressure. This is how they end up in the gangs as well, is because they go and look for this family that they didn't find at home. Um, and then unfortunately you know the gang family runs a different way. So and they were introduced to drugs and alcohol themselves. So it's just this real like the cycle. And yeah, the mum had a lot to do with that. Belinda had a lot to do with this, and um, I just don't think that uh, she hasn't paid for anything. Yes, she lost her daughter, which is I know I get that in itself is a a big pain. Um, but this whole inciting violence on online and the selling the drugs, admitting to selling drugs, where is the repercussion for that? You know, like, um, and that's why I don't understand the where is the she got no repercussions over what she did, admitted what she did, and yet the gang member who drove the car got 22 years, you know, and he had changed his life, and it's kind of like where's the like there's such a huge difference, and I don't get why,
Mm.
you know.
I'm thinking about the death of her daughter was probably the biggest price.
Oh, of course, yeah, of course,
I don't know if it's such thing as reverse karma,
yeah,
but whatever bad stuff she's done, it's all come home to roost with the death of her daughter. And
yeah,
I think her actions after that, just reveal what kind of person she is.
yeah,
Like, and she probably hasn't even learnt that. She hasn't learnt that. Her actions probably led that path to her daughter getting murdered. You know.
yeah,
So yeah, just like you said, it's all like a cycle.
yeah,
Hmm. Which is which is which is really sad, but a reality.
yeah, yeah.
Far, you know what? I started this podcast with you thinking about this how stink this movie was, but now that we're breaking it down,
It's
you
very
know
cool.
we've gone through all the layers. Man, it's pretty deep, eh? It's pretty deep.
Yeah.
It's pretty deep. Well, what would you think about that? The model of the town. I thought that was pretty cool. How
Oh
they
yeah, I was wondering who made that. That's pretty cool. I wonder whether the mother made it because while she was in her, weird state. Um, and like I guess it made me think like, putting out in reality what's going on in your head, as you try and play it over and over again. It was a really cool model. Um, yeah,
did you find those hands annoying? Moving the cars around.
that just reminded me of a kid, like when they're telling stories. And they're like, yeah, no, it was cool. I like that. Yeah, and I thought,
Yeah.
oh, they should do that more often. But
When
yeah,
when they reenacted the murder scene,
yeah,
I got kind of confused.
yeah.
Yeah, with what really happened, what happened? Because yeah, but I had to rewind it and watch it again a few
I think
times.
it's because of the person telling the story. She was a bit, um, yeah.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh,
For
you remember the part where she identified the guy who she thought that it was, like the sketch. So when she was first taken for questioning and she was asked to describe the shooter, and she had said, "Oh yeah," and they did up a little sketch, and then she had said it was a young guy, so they brought out yearbooks,
oh yeah,
and she pointed out one kid. Did you see it? And
it wasn't him, eh?
it wasn't him. My God, my heart broke. The poor kid is in there, crying his eyes out. Like, I just want to go home. You sound like a baby, Like, I was like, oh, poor kid. Um, and then Belinda was just like, oh, I don't know. They didn't tell me that if I did this wrong, then, I couldn't be used as a witness or something. Like this. I'm like, oh, girl, just get off the drugs. Just get off the drugs. Just leave my head in.
Yeah, no, that's
But
have
the
you got
mistaken identity, I guess, like and knowing that she was on drugs on the day, how could she have been a, credible witness anyway? And how can you bring in somebody like that? She was so adamant that that was him. But how can you just bring somebody in based on that? And oh, I felt for the kid, man. He sounded so like a little baby crying, like I want to go home to mum. It was so sad.
yeah. So that was have you got anything else? Oh, I'm trying to think of anything else. Um,
No, just don't do drugs, man. Moral of the story: don't do drugs. No, there was the stuff about the snitching.
oh,
There was the Lemus brothers. I think I can't remember their name. What were their names? Um, yeah, the Lemus brothers who were brought in for questioning. They were the two sitting at the back of the car, and they were brought in for questioning. One of the brothers snitched, and then and the other brother wouldn't. And then when they went back to the gang or whatever, they were trying to turn the other brother against the other brother. Both of them fled, and then the gang burned down the parents' house.
Well, what? Oh,
Did
I didn't catch
you see
that. But
that?
no.
So yeah, so the two brothers left. So okay, so one of the brothers snitched. Then the gang asked the other brother who didn't snitch, "Was it your brother?" And he's like, "I don't know, man. I don't know what he said." And then they go, "What would you do if I killed your brother?" And then the brother said, "Well, I'll do what you would do if somebody killed your brother." So at that point, the brother decided, okay, even though I didn't snitch, I don't want my brother to get hurt, so we're going to take off. They took off. Now, to get to them, the gang went to the parents' house, and started, I guess, threatening the parents. The parents left the house, but they burnt the house down. The gang burnt the house down. Um, and yeah, and I think that brother actually might still be in hiding because he was the one with the disguise, the
Oh, okay.
disguise,
Yeah.
the hat and the glasses. I'm like, oh, so yeah, um, yeah, that sucked as well. But it's not too far off what Belinda did as well, like kind of go after anyone who had a blimmin' car, go after the whole gang. I don't care who it was. I just want to go after the whole gang and start. Um, yeah, so that whole mentality of it's not even about the person, it's just rage. Mm,
I, I, I guess it shows how advanced the gangs in USA are using social media.
yeah,
You believe in everything that comes on social media. Because I know in South Chicago, there's a big problem with gang violence
yeah,
there, and it's sort of like arguments on Facebook, and you get killed for it.
yeah,
Like drive-bys started by taunting on Facebook.
yeah,
It's like crazy.
yeah. Well, that's like cyberbullying here, like, what causes um people to take their own lives here as well, not just the violence, like one against the other, but also two people to be cyberbullied and taking their own lives because of things that people have said that other people have said, oh, she said this about you, he said this about you. It's just like, yeah, it's just too easy to get to the kids now, like to anyone these days and mess them up like that. So yeah, social media has its good points, but it also has its dark side. Yeah,
Yeah. So as a mum,
yeah.
does that concern you with with raising kids in social media? Does that even add on to the all the other stresses that social media brings?
Yeah, for sure. Because you kind of like have to stay on top of it, as well. You have to, and because I don't do social media a lot, it's kind of like I have to stay on top of learning how all of this works so that I can keep an eye on what's happening with my kids. So there's which makes it difficult because you also have to be able to communicate with your kids and allow your kids to be able to talk to you about what people are saying, things that you don't see. So like the stuff that happens on the direct messenger and stuff. Um, you want to be able to have your kids talk to you about what's happening on there, um, because you don't want to have to go through it. You don't have to want to go through their messages and check it, but it's just too easy, and you hear too many stories about it. So it is a scary place for kids, and we have to be really in our kids' not space, but have this really close connection with our kids so that we can try and guide them through it and let them know what's, as well as being up to date with it ourselves, which is hard enough.
Yeah, and just seeing these kids in gangs in the US that are using social media and they've got guns, they've
Yeah.
and they're ready to kill. It's even worse.
Well, you just think about the most stupidest things, right? Like that go viral, and then that goes viral because people try it, right? So if you think about something simple like the I don't know if it was on TikTok or whatever, but it was that vortexing of a
Hmm.
bottle, the stupid drink bottle thing. My kids came to me and started doing that. And I go, where's that from? What is that? Like, that's just stupid. Like, just drink the damn thing properly, And they're like, oh no. So then it was like that for ages. Like there was this, thing. But if, that's an innocent thing, I guess. I don't know. It depends on what's in the bottle, I guess. But what happens if it ends up being, like a gun? All of a sudden, oh yeah, let's play, whatever with this gun. This is cool now, and it goes viral. Well, what
Mm.
the heck, man? Like, like, because they're gonna believe it because it's viral on TikTok. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And follow it because it's viral. Where is the sense in this? Where is the questioning that goes, hey, maybe this isn't smart? Like,
Mm. Especially when we didn't have those kind of drinking games back when we were nowadays.
oh, no. I never had drinking games like that back in the library where I was studying like,
or
and reading my Bible.
or drinking tricks. Oh yeah, nah, it's now drinking tricks now, eh? Drinking tricks. But yeah, man. So if everyone out there want to go check out their top 10 on Netflix, I think it's still there. Is it still there on top 10? I want to have a look.
I don't know if it's on top 10, but it's still there on Netflix. So, um, yeah, if you want to lose an hour and a half of your life, then
Oh, hey, I think we just, for me, this podcast rejuvenated my feelings for this documentary. Now it's pretty deep. We made it pretty deep, Bria. We made it pretty
yeah,
deep. But the documentary is called "Why Did You Kill Me?" It's
yeah,
on Netflix. Might be in the top 20 now. Got bumped off
yeah.
the
It's
top
not in
10.
the top 10.
Okay,
Mm.
cool. So what are you watching now at the moment?
Nothing. I'm trying to stay away. I'm trying to stay away from Netflix because I have things to do. So right now, nothing. But yeah, I guess the thing is that normally if Sin has watched something, because Sin and I have similar tastes in what we watch. So normally if she's watching something, she'll message me and go, "Hey," da, 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 and I said to her, "Don't send me any more series, man, because series I will binge watch to the end." I was like, "Can't lose that kind of time, man. I can't afford it." So yeah,
uh,
nothing at the moment, but
I need to unwind. You got a busy schedule. When you come home, relax, have a wine, and watch a TV series. But now I've been watching that. I tried The Serpent out,
oh
that
yeah,
true story about that serial killer. But
not
it's a
good.
bit, it's different. It's a bit slow. It's a bit boring actually.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'll got to episode 3.
yeah.
I'll
Not as
probably
fast as Why Did You Kill Me? It
not as fast.
was
I think
slow.
it should be one documentary. I think, or it should be one movie. But I know I am enjoying two. Oh, on Neon. I am enjoying Snowfall season 4. So that's my go-to. That's my go-to Snowfall right now. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm reading at the moment. I've moved into books, so
Are you reading or listening to books?
no, I'm read. I find it really hard to listen to books. I
Yeah.
tried the audiobook. Yeah, I couldn't do it. Because I fall asleep. So
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah. So no, I have to read. Depending on what it is as well, I'll read it and then I have to take notes as well. So
Mm.
I find listening to it is a bit hard, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I went the other way because I found that I got no time to read a book anymore.
Yeah,
It's hard, so I switched to audiobooks,
yeah,
and I was pretty reluctant to because I listen to podcasts, and
yeah,
if I listen to audiobooks, they'll take my away from
yeah.
podcasts. But
All the
it's
time,
it's
yeah.
been good. I went through like 3 books in 2 months.
Really?
Yeah, just listening to it. No,
Yeah,
in the car, at work.
yeah.
So I'm getting through books real quickly.
Hey, that's the
So
other
it's
thing
been
now.
good.
I don't drive. Like I work from home now, so I don't have to drive into the office. So I have no driving time anymore.
Oh yeah.
It used to be an hour commute, and now I don't drive at all. So it's annoying. Yeah, so you don't have the time to listen to things. You have to make the time to listen to it.
Mm, mm.
Anyways,
Okay.
yeah, thanks for that.
Thanks, Ria, for coming on.
All good.
We'll do this again.
Okay, the next silly drama.
Oh, did you guys get any cricket sounds come through the
No,
email?
but you know what I did learn? I did learn that they have tutorials on YouTube about how to make the cricket sound.
What?
So they have they have tutorials. I watched the tutorial. I can't actually do the sound. If you want to win the $100 from Sin, because Sin has agreed to pay the $100, go onto YouTube and search up how to make the cricket sound with your mouth. And there are quite a few tutorials on how to do it. So if you want an easy $100, they're only 5-minute tutorials, so you can give it a go and win
Oh,
$100.
cool. All right, right, all right, sweet. So I'm looking forward to the seeing who the winner is.
Yeah. I expect to see something up there from you.
I'll probably cheat.
Yeah, yeah. Have the recorder at the bottom. Yeah.
Okay,
All right, cool. Thanks, Cam.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.